Listen, Dave, quickly, based on what we know about this lawsuit, do you think it has teeth? Because the Wall Street Journal is standing by its reporting. Would the Journal risk a lawsuit like this if it didn't have what it sees as irrefutable proof?
Alex, there is no way that a Rupert Murdoch-owned publication would put this out there unless they had the goods. This lawsuit has no teeth. This lawsuit was not meant for the courts. It was meant for the court of public opinion.
Do you think Trump filed this lawsuit to actually win the case, or is it just his usual the show must go on mentality? Write your thoughts in the comments.
It was meant for all of us. It was meant for his base to say, you see, he's fighting back. That letter must be false. Let me just put it this way. If that letter did not exist, if the letter does not appear in the Jeffrey Epstein file, then wouldn't the Attorney General have come out and said that? Wouldn't Kash Patel, Dan Bongino have access to the Epstein files? Wouldn't they come out and say, this letter doesn't exist? But they haven't said that because the letter is in the file. Now, perhaps Trump can say that the letter is a fabrication. Someone else signed his name and pretended to be Donald Trump. Stretches the imagination, but okay. But even then, if that were the case, the Wall Street Journal article is not false. The Wall Street Journal article just talks about the existence of such a letter. It didn't say it was definitely Donald Trump who wrote the letter with his signature on it. So this lawsuit is going nowhere. It's meant for the show, not for the go.
Do you think Trump really wrote this letter himself? Or will the double Trump theory come up again this time?
So, Peter, nuts and bolts of all this. What do we know? What we don't know about these files? What's out in the public? What's still a mystery? And this letter. How much does it just pour gasoline on everything?
Yeah, the letter is fascinating because it does pour gasoline on it. It doesn't, on the other hand, answer the question that a lot of people have, right? The letter doesn't tell us something we didn't really know about Donald Trump. We knew he was prone to crude sexual banter. He used a locker room banter, he once said, of his Access Hollywood tape. We knew that he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. This obviously is a reminder of that, confirmation of that. It doesn't answer a lot of the questions a lot of people have, but it certainly fuels the fire. Absolutely keeps the story alive, and it encourages more suspicion that there might be more there to be hidden. You know, when the president says he wants to have grand jury testimony released, of course, a judge has to approve that. So that's not a given by any stretch. And B, a grand jury testimony isn't the entirety of the file. So the problem for the president is even if they released some documents, even if they released some grand jury testimony, if they redacted it or they only released grand jury testimony, there's still going to be people out there saying, okay, what about the rest of the file?
If you've watched the video up to this point, don't forget to leave a like, and subscribing for new videos is free, so don't worry. Do you think Trump is hiding some of the files and saying, I am transparent? Who do you think he is really hiding what from?
What about the things you're still not releasing? It's kind of a Pandora's box for him. Once he's opened that Pandora's box, it's awfully hard to shut it again.
Yeah. So, Dave, you're from Palm Beach. Of course, one of Jeffrey Epstein's mansions was there, so you may have some extra insight on this case overall. I'm curious your read on why the Trump administration seems to be against releasing whatever information they have on the Epstein case.
I think you're seeing it with this letter, that they are worried that Donald Trump will get caught up in the Epstein scandal. But really, they need to level with their base. It's well known and accepted that Donald Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. They hung around the same circles. It doesn't mean that Trump was engaged in child sex trafficking or anything illegal, but Trump doesn't want the smoke. And the way that he's fighting so fiercely about this letter tells you why they don't want the files released. So it is perplexing if he's blaming Pam Bondi for not being transparent when the directives come from the White House. Pam Bondi is not doing anything unless the White House instructs her to do it. So this could be a case of scapegoating here.
When do you think Trump will stop blaming others for his own mistakes? Or will his collection of scapegoats continue to grow?
He may need a head on a wall somewhere to show his base that he's doing something. But in the end, these are his decisions, and he can end this controversy by just releasing all the files with certain redactions for victims. But he doesn't want to do that.
I'm going to pick up on that with you, Peter. I mean, we never thought we'd see this in the current political climate, but you have Democrats now siding with Trump's MAGA base demands to see the Epstein files. Is President Trump showing signs of wavering under this growing pressure? I mean, is the request for Pam Bondi to release parts of the grand jury transcripts his version of a compromise? And do you think it'll work?
Well, it is his way of trying to silence things for a little while. No question about it. Look, he found earlier in the week that he couldn't just simply dictate to his base and say, enough is enough. Let's focus on something else. He tried. He told them they were being fooled into demanding it, that it was a boring case. It was over. We shouldn't be thinking about it. There are more important things to think about. And they didn't listen. And so, yeah, he's trying to see if he can find a way to quell this furor and force people to think about other things. It hasn't worked so far, and that's really striking because in the 10 years he's been on the national political stage since first, announcing that presidential run from the escalator in Trump Tower in 2015, he's had pretty good control over his base. They've disagreed with him on some things, and there've been moments of tension, but nothing like this. And I think that he is frustrated and finding it, difficult to figure out how to go forward because all the usual tools haven't worked for him.
If you want to support us, please like, subscribe, and join us for an in-depth look at each new video.
Welcome to channel. Just think about it. The Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch's newspaper, is publishing a letter about Trump. Does anyone not know how much Murdoch supports Trump? So if this newspaper says, look, here's a letter. Here's a letter. It means they have something solid in their hands. And what's are doing? As usual, he is shouting, this is a liar. It's the same old play when the Access Hollywood tapes leaked. He said, I was joking. When Stormy Daniels came forward, he said, no, she's slandering me. Now with his own signature on the Epstein file, he says, I didn't write the letter. Does that make sense to you? You know what's really funny here? This so-called case isn't even a case. It's a circus. He's putting on a show to tell his base, look, I'm fighting. Well, if you are so brave, if everything is a lie, then open the files and let us see. But now why? Because if he opens them, Pandora's box will never close again. Trump has been afraid of transparency for years. Are his tax records out there? No election documents incomplete. The Epstein file, just open it a little. Keep the rest hidden. So are idiots, brother? Why do you think Trump keeps portraying himself as a victim? Now consider this irony. The mega crowd, the ones who say the deep state is conspiring against us, are demanding transparency. The Democrats are saying, let's open everything up. What is Trump doing? He's passing the buck to Pam Bondi. Wow. Giving orders to the people he appointed and then blaming them. Sound familiar? Remember, he blamed the FBI. He blamed his ministers. He blamed his lawyers. It's the same old story. This leather issue isn't just about a leather. It's a litmus test. Trump's threat is coming out into the open.